Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 866A, and today's date is January 13th, 2016, and the title of the episode is Russia Making a Move to Decouple Its Economy from the U.S. Dollar. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Well, the president said quite a bit in his State of the Union address, and some of the things he said was that the United States economy is the strongest economy in the world. Well, we've been looking at the data, and we realize that no, the economy is not strong, and it is not the strongest in the world. But what's very interesting of what he said is anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction. Wow, why is he so concerned that people are out there and they're telling you that the economy's not doing well? Why would he even say that? I mean, I know he's feeding us a line that the economy's doing well, but we've been tracking the economy and everything around us is completely falling apart. Everything that we look at, retail, housing, GDP, unemployment, Baltic Dry Index, manufacturing, sales for the major corporations like Caterpillar, IBM, layoffs are continuing. I mean, we're looking at the hard facts here. But he had to come out and say that anyone who disagrees is peddling fiction. And he said what is true, and the reason that a lot of Americans feel anxious, is that the economy has been changing in profound ways. Changes that started long before the Great Recession hit and haven't let up. What does he mean by that? Well, he means that this economy right now is collapsing and changing, and the United States, the dollar, the petrodollar, will no longer be the reserve currency of the world. The way of life that we have right now, and believe me, I don't want this to change. I don't want the United States to become a third world country. I don't want the United States and for the people inside the United States to suffer and not afford food or products. I don't want to see riots on the street. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Why would anyone want to see this? But what he's saying is that this economy right now is changing. And it's not changing for the better. It's changing for the worse. And always when they give these speeches, they always give you little tidbits of what's really going on. And they wrap it in doublespeak to make everyone feel like, oh yes, that's why I feel anxious, because it's just changing. No, the economy is declining. The economy is collapsing. Now, yesterday I said that because he had the State of the Union, the market was pushed up by the high-frequency traders, the plunge protection team. And I said I wouldn't be surprised. I wasn't really making a prediction that if the market dropped the next day because the State of the Union was over, he was talking about the economy improving, so it would look pretty bad if he's talking about the economy improving and the stock market was down 300 points. People would be like, well, what do you mean? This doesn't look good. Well, today we see the market is down 300 plus points. And we see at this point that the economy, the real facts, everything that we've been covering is showing that it's getting worse and worse. And people are trying to get out of the market. People are getting nervous. And they see signs around them that they haven't seen in a very, very long time since the Great Recession back in 2008. And we are continually seeing more and more layoffs. I mean, Noranda is laying off 540 people. Aeropostale, another 100. Vermont Yankee, 150. BAE Systems, Jacksonville Shipyard, 300 people. GE is going to cut 6,500 European jobs. And there are many, many more layoffs. There are going to be many more store closings. And as we move forward, this economy is not just going to all of a sudden just turn around and say, okay, everything's better now. We fixed it. It's all done. Everything's fine. No. What's happening now and why people are getting anxious is because the statistical manipulated numbers don't make any more sense anymore to what's really going on in this country. And we're looking at what's really going on here. We're starting to see that U.S. household debt is increasing because a lot of people are using their credit cards. And we're starting to see bank overdraft fees increasing because people don't have the funds in their accounts to meet and pay their bills. So that's increasing. We see manufacturing still declining. We see the Baltic Dry Index has hit a new low of 394 points, down another 8. I mean, to suggest that we have one of the strongest economies and everything is fine, we're in a recovery, is absolutely ridiculous. Actually, I think he's peddling fiction. That's exactly what he's doing. Remember what I always say. When these politicians come out and they tell you something, always think the opposite. Whatever they're telling you, whatever bill they're trying to pass, like, the Patriot Act, the USA Freedom Act, the Affordable Care Act, the economy has recovered. No, the opposite is the economy is collapsing. And this is what we're seeing. And we're starting to see a lot of financial analysts all of a sudden say, yeah, there's something wrong in this economy, and we're looking at a deep bear market coming up. Albert Edwards is saying that the S&P will fall about 75%. He says a global recession looms. Very pessimistic about what is happening here. He says because the Fed's pursuit of negligently loose monetary policy since 2009 is a misguided attempt to boost economic growth via asset price inflation, and we will now reap the whirlwind while the Western manufacturing sector chokes. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The manufacturing sector is choking. Not just here, but in the UK, in China. Remember, China is dependent on the private Western central bank countries to purchase the goods. If nobody's purchasing the goods, they don't need the manufacturer at this time. And we're going to see a decline. And we're seeing this. He said, I believe the events we now see unfolding will drive us back into a global recession. JP Morgan's head quant, well, he's back, and he's the one that warned us that the market was going to fall. And he has a warning to everyone. And the warning is not good. He says the current option implied probability of a bear market, example 20% decline this year, is about 25%. While there is no way to predict a bear market, below we look at various scenarios and estimate the probability of a bear market may be nearly twice as large. So according to this man, the JP Morgan head quant, whose every market forecast has been so far impeccable, the probability of a bear market, or a 20% or more drop in the S&P 500, is roughly 50%. Not good, people. He said the bull market is ending now, and we are entering a bear market. He says it's in line with historical trends. Now, no matter what the high-frequency traders do, the plunge protection team does, they will not be able to stop this entire market coming down. And they know this. They can only push it up so far because if people, the retail, the big corporations, the banks, if they're pulling out and they're trying to sell at the high, it's going to be a very, very difficult time for them to push this market up. As we can see, it is getting more and more difficult as time goes on. And when we look back in time, we're going to see that this all started back in 2008. But they created these bubbles, and it started to fall apart around August of 2015 when things started to take a dive. And we saw this happen back in 2007 prior to 2008 crash, where things started to fall apart. The summer of 2008, things started to accelerate, and then we had it fall apart in October. Here we saw things fall apart in August, moving into September. They pushed it further through December, trying to hold the whole thing together, and here we are in January. And it's absolutely awful. Now, at the same time this is all happening and the private Western central bank economy is falling apart, Russia right now has taken a significant step that will break the present Wall Street oil price monopoly, at least for a huge part of the world oil market. This move is part of a longer-term strategy of decoupling Russia's economy from, yes, from the dollar, from significant export of oil from the US dollar. They are removing themselves because they know what's coming. In November, the Russian energy minister has announced that it will begin test trading of a new Russian oil benchmark. While this might sound like, nothing big, it's actually very huge. If successful, which there's no reason why it wouldn't be, the Russian crude oil benchmark futures contracts traded on Russian exchanges will price oil in rubles and no longer in the US dollar. It is part of a de-dollarization move that Russia, China, and a growing number of other countries have quietly begun. And we will see the end of the petrodollar. And the demand for dollars by world central banks is going to drop. And this is going to be a complete disaster because what we're seeing is everything is moving from the west to the east. The Russian move to price in rubles, its large oil exports to world markets, especially Western Europe, and increasingly to China and Asia via the ESPO pipeline and other routes on the new Russian oil benchmark in St. Petersburg International Mercantile Exchange, is by no means the only move to lessen dependence of countries on the dollar for oil. Sometime next year, China, the world's second largest oil importer, plans to launch its own oil benchmark contract, like the Russian one. And it will be denominated not in dollars, but in the Chinese yuan. It will be traded on the Shanghai International Energy Exchange. So step by step, Russia, China, the other emerging economies are removing themselves from the dollar, decoupling. And this is what Obama is talking about. This is what he is saying, how the economy is changing. It's not going to be better for the people. It's going to be worse. Actually, what we need to do is we need to take control of our government, again, and remove the central bank. When the time is right, this is what the people of this country need to do, like it was done back during the time of our founding fathers, where they said, we cannot have a central bank. We need to govern ourselves. We need to do the same thing again. And I'm not saying do it through forceful means or any way like that. We can do it peacefully. Now, will the government let us do it peacefully? We don't know. But we will do it peacefully. We will march and we will tell them they need to resign from office. And if we can get millions and millions of people together to do this when the time is right, we can make a change in this country. A change for the better. A change for the people. To have the people work for the people once again. Not for a corporation. Not for a central bank. Not for a foreign government. And this is what we're going to have to do. And everyone is going to have to come together and make a decision of what type of life they want. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.